Why sleep? Of all the things that you could commit so much of your time to, because it appears you've been really thinking and working on the subject matter of sleep for about sort of 20 odd years, 2 decades
Yeah,
roughly?
something like that, yeah.
Why?
Well, I think the first thing is that we spend a third of our lives doing it, and yet whatever people like me will tell you, we still understand relatively little about it. We understand relatively little about, what it's for, what it does to our biology. Obviously, that's changing very, very quickly now. It has a great deal of overlap with the world of clinical neurology. So I also do specialist clinics in epilepsy, and I do specialist clinics in general neurology. So and sleep and the brain intersect at every single level. Of course, it's not me saying this, but a famous statement is sleep is of the brain, by the brain, and for the brain. It's intimately linked to every aspect of how our brain works. So one of the really exciting things is that because it's a relatively new area, our understanding of it is exploding in ways that are not paralleled across other areas of clinical medicine.
Is it important?
Is it important?
Yeah.
I think it is of fundamental importance. The fact is that if sleep wasn't important, it would be a very stupid thing for evolution to create in us. The fact that we are essentially switched off from our external environment for a third of our lives. And actually, there's a whole host of evidence when you look at how certain animals have developed the ability to be able to sleep with only half their brain at a time. Animals like aquatic mammals or certain birds.
Like a dolphin.
And dolphins, that very much suggests, well, that must be of great importance if sleep is a risk for our survival. Because if you're an aquatic mammal like a dolphin and you're sleeping and you're unable to surface or unable to see what predators are around you, that the evolution has designed a system whereby it enables you to sleep with half of your brain at a time. So that in and of itself tells us it's important. The fact that the circadian rhythm, so that 24-hour cycle that a whole host of biological rhythms have, is so intrinsically linked to life itself that actually every single life form exhibits features of this 24-hour circadian rhythm, tells us that this was something that was prioritized at a very, very early stage in life's evolution on Earth. So yes, it's important, and over the last few years, we've understood precisely why it's important. I say precisely, but we know that it's important for pretty much every aspect of our waking lives, be it our immune system, be it our cardiovascular system, our blood pressure, risk of diabetes, mental health, so depression and anxiety, even how we perceive pain. So it really is fundamental to every system that we rely on during our waking lives.
Having seen, thousands and thousands and thousands of people that struggle with sleep that have been sent to your centre, do you think the average person on the street over or underestimates the importance of sleep in their day-to-day life?
Well, I think it's changing. I think it was not that long ago where, comments like sleep is for wimps was heard fairly frequently, and that there were some bragging rights associated with how little you sleep. I think that there has been a transformation over the last sort of 15 or 20 years whereby people have become much more aware of how important sleep is and have started prioritising it a little bit.
So you think, where do you think we stand then? Overestimate, underestimate?
I think that there is still in the general population an underestimation of how important sleep is, but I think there are certain segments of the population that are much more aware of it and perhaps even, dare I say, overestimate it.
Overestimate it?
Yes, I think so. I think that there is a danger at the current time that we tend to obsessionalize about sleep and think that it is the be-all and end-all. Is, of course, part of normal life for our sleep to fluctuate depending on what's going on in our external and our internal lives. And I think the danger is that if you overemphasize the importance of getting 8 or 8.5 hours sleep every night, then you actually risk problems later down the line, exacerbating things like insomnia.
Can you give me an overview of the current state of sleep in terms of the percentages, stats of people that are struggling with their sleep, the variety of ways that we struggle with our sleep, the different disorders associated with our sleep, and just like a breakdown of society at large's current sleep health?
So we think that about 20% of the adult population are chronically sleep deprived, so that they are not sleeping enough, and that's largely as a result of lifestyle factors and lack of prioritization of sleep. We know that about 30% of the adult population in any one year will experience a period of insomnia. So insomnia is different from chronic sleep deprivation. Insomnia is the state whereby you want to sleep, where you're lying in bed and you can't sleep, which is very different from, burning the candle at both ends. And about 10% of the adult population will have chronic insomnia. So that's an ongoing issue with not being able to sleep for more than 3 months at a time. So, very, very high numbers. There are some other sleep disorders that are incredibly common. So a condition called obstructive sleep apnea, which is essentially part of the spectrum of snoring. But in obstructive sleep apnea, your airway narrows, you have difficulty breathing, it partially obstructs, and you have recurrent brief awakenings, sometimes that you're not aware of, that disrupt your sleep. And estimates vary wildly depending on where in the world that they've been done. But I think, our best guess is something like 10 to 12% of adult males experience sleep apnea, clinically significant sleep apnea, and somewhere in the region of about 6% of women experience clinically significant sleep apnea. So we're talking about very, very large numbers. And the majority of individuals with sleep apnea are undiagnosed. So it's estimated that about 80% of people in the UK with sleep apnea don't know that they've got sleep apnea and have never seen anybody about sleep apnea. There are other conditions like restless leg syndrome, which is a neurological disorder whereby people experience an urge to move, a fidgetiness in usually their legs, although it can affect other body parts as well, that can give rise to very huge difficulties getting off to sleep and actually staying asleep, because a lot of these individuals kick at night when they are asleep and kick themselves awake. And that probably affects somewhere in the region of about 5% of the adult population. Even sleepwalking, 1 to 2% of the population. So lots and lots of these conditions, very, very common.
How many of the people that walk in your sleep centre do you think could be helped, and could you help?
Well, I think the majority can be helped. A cure is something different, but the majority can be helped in some shape or form.
And if we talk about getting someone that has walked in your clinic with some kind of sleep disorder to a state where they are a healthy sleeper, what kind of percentage do you think?
Well, I think it's important to precede what I say by the fact that actually we don't see many people with insomnia. We tend to divert people with what we term primary insomnia or insomnia without any underlying causes to a sister service. If you look at insomnia, chronic insomnia as a whole, we know that there are some very good treatments for chronic insomnia. And actually, most of those treatments are focused on non-drug-based treatments, psychological-based treatments. And we know that those kinds of treatments will significantly improve sleep in up to about 80% of individuals. So that's a very large number, actually. And there are other treatments available. It doesn't just rely on these non-drug-based treatments.
If you love the Diary of a CEO brand and you watch this channel, please do me a huge favour. Become part of the 15% of the viewers on this channel that have hit the subscribe button. It helps us tremendously, and the bigger the channel gets, the bigger the guests.